Hi guys, Jared here. Another Sunday night video for you on this lovely August something evening. Here in Costa Rica, we don't really keep track of the days. So I know it's Sunday, but I really have no idea what the date is, so I'm going to have to check on that. Anyways, guys, it is Sunday night, and we have some activity to be looking at in the market. I think there's going to be some exciting movement this week, and I think there's a couple of pairs we should be focusing on, a few more than others, so let's talk about those. First of all, as we've seen in this market, we've seen very little progress kind of across the board with a lot of these pairs opening and closing for the week at the same place. And so what we're going to still be waiting on a little bit is the summer channel to really start to break out. We're seeing a lot of the dollar pairs. The CAD made some pretty nice movements this last week in their choppy way still. But the big gauges of what the dollar are doing are going to come from the pound dollar and the euro dollar. So we really have to watch out for those guys. We see that this pound dollar has just been a big choppy mess. We had a little bump up there a couple weeks ago. Nothing too exciting. So that one's still in trouble. The pound is seeing a lot of economic. The UK is seeing some pretty healthy economical trials right now, and the US as well. So that's kind of putting a bit of a pinch on that pair. The euro has made a little bit of a run up. We're seeing some slight rallying here, but still it's only coming up to previous highs of just a couple of weeks back. So it's not really doing too much. It's still bouncing around in the channel. But one thing that we have to majorly look for at this point is the dollar to make a decision on which way it's going to go. The direction is ultimately going to come out sooner than later, so we're still holding out and waiting for it, and just getting there hopefully much sooner than later, because I know a lot of us are getting tired of waiting, or at least maybe I am. But what I want to focus on this week is I really want everyone to keep their eye on the Sunday night trades. That has really been the best trading opportunity we've seen over the last couple of weeks in this really tough market. So just a little reminder what the levels are. We see at the euro here we have about 143.75 for the upper channel and about 14200 for the lower channel. It's a pretty big channel for Fridays, so this one could end up breaking out much later on into the evening, or even tomorrow, or even the next day. But watch those levels: 143.75, 14200. A break either direction should give us a good movement there. Pound, also a choppy mess. We're looking at about 166, really about 16600 is the level, but we need a clean break of that 166.22 to give us some nice movement there, and then about 164.15 for the bottom should give us some movement. But I'm not really focusing on the dollar pairs much right now. The USD will make its run, and it will go eventually, hopefully eventually anyways. We are seeing some markets starting to move. We're seeing the S&P higher than we've seen it in a little while here. That's putting the yen under pressure, and we're going to talk about the yen pairs and what those are doing. Gold's still not really moving. We're here back at the 950 area. It's been at 940, 950, 960, 930, so on and so forth. The Dow is moving pretty well. So that is giving some strength to the euro-dollar pair. We're seeing the Dow and the euro-dollar pair following each other pretty well. So that's giving that a little bit of a push. But the S&P, that is really influencing the yen pairs. So let's go to the yen pairs. I think that I will be most likely keeping a pretty strong eye on the yen pairs this week. And let me show you a couple of things that we have going on. If we go to the euro yen, for example, I think this is a good trade right here. It's already broken out of the Sunday night, the Friday highs. It's up by an okay little chunk at this point, about 50 pips above that high. Now the market is still kind of putting along, but I think this is a good area to look for a buy. So look for a little bit of pullback, a little bit of retracement, but basically at this area we should see some sort of upward movement on this euro yen. We look at the 4-hour chart. It's looking pretty good. We've had a crossover fairly recently back there, and overall this thing's kind of just keeping in the trend, this overall uptrend right here. So that's pretty good. The uptrend is just continuing on once again. It still is in a pretty rough channel, but it is giving us some pretty nice movements. So this Sunday night trade, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think this is going to be a good move upward. Aussie yen, same thing. This one has already broken the Sunday night levels by about 50 pips. It's up a good little chunk, and it's continuing higher. Once again, same type of situation, bit of a channel, but it is following the overall uptrend pretty well. We see that our trend is continuing up fairly nicely there. So I think both these Aussie yen and euro yen are going to be nice buying opportunities for the Sunday night trade. So I'm going to be going long on both of these guys. I'm looking a little more at the euro yen, but this Aussie yen showing some very good signs as well, and so I think this is going to be a nice one to continue on. one little side note to remember: if the euro starts to make some moves while the pound does not, make sure to come over to this euro pound. Look for these Sunday night highs and lows. We have about 8,700 for the high and about 8,630 for the low, so a fairly tight channel on Friday for the euro pound. So watch for this thing to most likely, I'm leaning towards this thing breaking up. We're seeing a lot more movement in the dollar yen than the dollar, in the euro dollar than the pound dollar. So if this one can continue up like that, if we see those other pairs continuing moving like that, then this should break through this 8,700 level no problem and continue upward nicely. Now, another pair that I don't trade a whole bunch, but it's giving us a fairly good setup here, is the pound yen. We're seeing this thing just continuing right up through the channel, just like everything else. It's made just a slight break. It's only above it by 15-20 pips, and it shouldn't have too much of a problem making its way through this whole area here. Watch out, we do have the 4-hour gap that can put a little bit of pressure on that upward movement, but overall I think this should follow the other yen pairs fairly well. I think the euro's doing a little bit better and the Aussie's doing a little bit better than like the pound pairs, for example, so probably going to see a little bit more movement on the euro yen and the Aussie yen than maybe even the pound yen, which is a pretty rare thing. So just keep an eye on that and watch these two guys, and they should give us some good upward movement. The euro yen and the Aussie yen are looking like they're pretty much ready to head north on us, and they already are actually. The dollar yen, which I pretty much never trade, and I don't think I'm about to start, but I'll just let you guys know kind of what this is doing as well. Same thing as the rest of the yen pairs. It's broke that Friday high, of 94.70, and it's just continuing up nicely. We've got a nice little 4-hour crossover forming. This is the first candle to open up here above, and it looks like it's ready to head on upward. So just pretty much the yen pairs I think are going to be the big movers of the evening. So everyone keep an eye on that, and just be prepared to take some Sunday night trades on pretty much all these yen pairs. Now that's not to say that we're not going to see movement out of the euro dollar, the pound dollar, the Aussie dollar, and even the euro pound, because that's very likely. It is fairly early in the evening still. Pacific time, we're coming up on about 9 p.m. We know that the Asian session starts the London session starts at about midnight my time, so in about another 3 hours. So there's plenty of time for these euro dollar, euro pound pairs to pick up a little bit of strength and start moving. But I'm definitely going to be focusing on the yen pairs this week and their movement, probably to the bullish side. But we'll trade it as it goes. But I think at least for the breakout this evening, we're seeing pretty good signals that these pairs will continue upwards. So the market's been tough. It's been choppy. This big consolidation that we see on these euro pairs and pound pairs is only giving the market a little bit of fuel to decide which way it wants to go. It's very close to a very big breakout and some possible huge upward movement, but it's also very close to a possible reversal as well. And so a lot's going to depend on the risk versus the reward. Investors don't want to put their money at risk too much, and with a shaky economy and the major debt that we've accumulated, that does cause risk, but there is a lot of reward in sight as well with the markets rallying, the S&P up, the Dow up, gold kind of still sitting. So we're seeing a little more signs of confidence in the U.S. And speculators who really drive the market a huge amount, starting to put their money in lots of places. So that should continue. But for the evening, keep an eye on these euro dollar or euro yen, Aussie yen, and even pound yen pairs. Should be some good opportunities in there, but definitely don't take your eye off these euro dollar, pound dollar pairs, because these can very likely end up being some big movers this evening as well. So just keep your eye on all the pairs, and just know I'll be focusing on those yen pairs. Good luck trading. We'll catch you guys in the chat, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Thank you.